Right. Here we go. Peace. Rami Salamel. Thank you for joining us. Let's get right to it. Homosexuality. The gatekeepers. The words gay and lesbian do not exist in the village, but there is the word gatekeeper. Gatekeepers are people who live at the edge between two worlds, the world of the village and the world of the spirit. Though they do not marry in this world, they say they have partners in other dimensions. What they do, they don't like to communicate to anyone. It is their right to keep it to themselves. Everybody in the village respects that, because without gatekeepers, there is no access to other worlds. Most people in the West define themselves and others by sexual orientation. This way of looking at gatekeepers will kill the spirit of the gatekeeper. Gatekeepers in the village are able to do their job simply because of their strong spiritual connection, and also their ability to direct their sexual energy not to other people, but to spirit. The gatekeepers stand on the threshold of the gender line. They are mediators between the two genders. They make sure that there is peace and balance between women and men. If the two genders are in conflict and the whole village is caught in it, the gatekeepers are the ones to bring peace. Gatekeepers do not take sides. They simply act as the sword of truth and integrity. There are many gates that link a village to other worlds. The only people who have access to all these gates are the gatekeepers. I should mention here that there are two different kinds of gatekeepers. The first group has the ability to guard a limited number of gates to the other world, specifically those that correspond to the Dagara cosmology, water, earth, fire, mineral, and nature, because they vibrate the energies of those gates. The second group of gatekeepers, which is our focus here, has the responsibility of overseeing all the gates. They are in contact not only with the elemental gates, but also with many others. They have one foot in all the other worlds and the other foot here. This is why the vibration of their body is totally different from others. They also have access to other dimensional entities, such as the Kontombile, Kontombile, small beings who are very magical and knowledgeable. They are known as leprechauns in the Irish tradition. Wow. Oh, wow. Now, what would happen if you're dealing with a culture that doesn't care about these gateways? What happens is a gay person cannot do his job. Gatekeepers are left unable to accomplish their purpose. This is one of the most distinguishing factors about gays in the village. Now, as to their sexual orientation, nobody cares about this question. They care only about their performance as gatekeepers. I figure if they want people in the village to know about their sexuality, they will share it with them. I once heard that one of the reasons why gatekeepers are able to open gates to other dimensions is in the way they use their sexual energy. Their ability to focus their sexual energy in a particular way allows them to open and close different gates. It's deep. The life of gay people in the West is in many ways a reaction to pressure from a society that rejects them. This is partly because a culture that has forgotten so much about itself will displace certain groups of people, such as the gay community, from their true roles. I'm reading this, and as I'm reading it, I'm thinking about just homosexuality and gay culture and lesbian culture here in the West and how it's manifested itself in comparison to what is being described here, and it's interesting. Let me continue. In the village, they are not seen as the other. They are not forced to create a separate community in order to survive. Shout out to Castro. People do not put a negative label on them. They are regarded no differently than any other child of the village. They are born gatekeepers with specific purposes and are encouraged to fulfill the role they're born to in the interest of the community. In the village, gatekeepers have an eye on both genders. They can help the genders to understand each other better than usual in their daily life. That's why a group of women, for example, might gather and bring a male gatekeeper to help them understand certain village issues. Word. The same thing happens on the other side with the female gatekeeper coming into the middle of the men's circle. In the village, homosexuality is seen very differently than it is seen in the West, in part because all sexuality is spiritually based. Taken away from its spiritual context, it becomes a source of controversy and can be exploited. Taken away from its spiritual context, sexuality becomes a source of controversy and can be exploited. That's not just for homosexuality or lesbians, that's across the board. In the village, you can never see gatekeepers, or anybody for that matter, displaying their sexuality or commenting on the sexuality of others. Gatekeepers hold the keys to other dimensions. They maintain a certain alignment between the spirit world and the world of the village. Without them, the gates to the other world would be shut. On the other side of these gates lies the spirit world or other dimensions. Gatekeepers are in constant communication with beings who live there, who have the ability to teach us how to deal with ritual. And gatekeepers have the capacity to take other people to those places. A gatekeeper's knowledge is different from the knowledge of mentors and elders. This is because elders do not necessarily have access to all the gateways. The gatekeepers, on the other hand, have access to all the dimensions. They can open any gate. Although their knowledge is very broad, elders will call upon gatekeepers to help them open a particular gate, or help them better understand what the spirit world is about. Gays and lesbians in the West are often very spiritual, but they have been taken away from their connection with spirit. My feeling is that without the outlet, or that role in the culture, they have to find other ways of defining themselves. This could be one of the reasons why they would want to get married or make themselves look as though they do not have a unique purpose. Whew. That's deep. This could be one of the reasons why they would want to get married or make themselves look as though they do not have a unique purpose, to blend in. I have seen people in the West who have lost their identity try to usurp the role of gatekeeper once they learn about the power it involves. They do this for their own benefit, without really knowing what it means to be a true gatekeeper. Being a false gatekeeper is not helpful to anyone. It can only be harmful to the usurper. These people need to understand that in the village, a person doesn't become a gatekeeper out of desire for power, or even because of sexual orientation. No, a gatekeeper is part of one's life's purpose. announced before birth and developed through rigorous initiatory training to ensure that his power is not misused. A gatekeeper is responsible for a whole village, a whole tribe. Gatekeeping is not a game. Even though in the village homosexual relationships are not commonly the subject of ritual, here in the West, they have become so, simply because of the circumstances of life. The ash rituals and almost any other rituals I have described may be used to strengthen gay relationships. This is actually the end of the book. Or no, this is the end of the chapter, excuse me. What we have looked at regarding intimacy, sexuality, ritual, conflict, and loss applies also to homosexual relationships in the West, because in any kind of relationship, unless it's false or empty or superficial, comes with problems, and there is a need to carefully maintain and sometimes repair it. Maybe the only difference for gays and lesbians would be to have other gatekeepers in addition to non-gay family members and friends involved in their rituals. And this is coming from The Spirit of Intimacy, Ancient African Teachings in the Ways of Relationships, Sonbonfu Some. Amazing book. I recommend it. And I have been wanting to make this video for a while, but it's kind of a touchy topic, so I didn't really know how to go about it. But today has been a great day, and I'm in the mood, so I said let's do it. Now, if you've listened to all of this so far, you may have your feelings or your views on this, but I want to read something to you that I find very important, especially when you get information that challenges your way of thinking. The gifts of understanding are the treasures of Allah, and He appointed to everyone his portion in what measure seemed good unto himself. Hath He endowed thee with wisdom? Hath He enlightened thee mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction, communicated to the wise for thy own improvement. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubteth often, and changeth his mind. The fool is obstinate, and doubteth not. He knoweth all things, but his own ignorance. The pride of emptiness is an abomination, and to talk much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence, and to pity their absurdity. Yet be not puffed up in thy own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. This is coming from, this is coming from, oh, here we go, excuse me. Let me read this last part. The wise man feeleth his imperfections and is humbled. He laboureth in vain for his own approbation, but the fool peepeth in the shadow stream of his own mind, and is pleased with the pebbles which he seeth at the bottom. He bringeth them up and showeth them as pearls, and with the applause of his brethren delighteth himself. He boasts of attainments in things that are of no worth. But where it is a shame to be ignorant, there he hath no understanding. Even in the path of wisdom he toil after folly, and shame and disappointment are the reward of his labor. But the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge. The improvement of the arts is his delight, and their utility to the public crowneth with honor. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue he accounteth as the highest learning, and the science of happiness is the study of his life. This is a chapter from the Holy Quran. This is the Holy Instructions of Unity. Yeah, the Holy Instructions of Unity. In the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America. And I wanted to read that because oftentimes, people who are aware of certain information, certain knowledge, can begin to feel like they know everything. I'm speaking from personal experience. This, when I was younger, especially, but even in recent years, when I felt like I knew something, I would be so proud and be like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. And even now, I feel I know what I'm talking about with this more stuff. But I could be wrong. I could be incorrect. And so I always remind myself to humble myself, and to be open to learning new things, and to be open to new information, and to be open to change your perspective. And with that, with homosexuality, for me personally, I agree with the Holy Quran and what it says. And let me read that to you. And I'm reading, I don't have my Holy Quran with me, so I'm reading out of the Noble Drew Ali, the Exhuming of a Nation book, Elihu Pleasant Bay. But it has the Quran in here. And it says, time never was when man was not. If life of man at any time began, a time would come when it would end. The thoughts of Allah cannot be circumscribed. No finite man can comprehend things infinite. All finite things are subject unto change. All finite things will cease to be, because there was a time when they were not. The bodies and the souls of men are finite things, and they will change. Yeah, from the finite point of view, the time will come when they will be no more. But man himself is not the body, nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah. So when people ask me about homosexuality and lesbianism, my answer is, man himself is not the body, nor the soul. He is a spirit and a part of Allah. We're to love instead of hate. Our first principle of our divine creed. Love. Love. Amor. Thank you.